Air traffic controllers warned of bird strike minutes before Muan Airport accident. As it happened, 179 people are confirmed to have died in the catastrophic plane crash, which occurred on Sunday when a Jeju Air flight crash-landed at Muan International Airport. The plane appeared to land without landing gear before colliding with a concrete embankment and exploding. The cause of the crash is under investigation. 2 members of the flight's crew have survived, including a man who was awake and speaking to doctors today. Joe Biden offered his condolences and said the U.S. was ready to provide any necessary assistance. The Korean government is offering funeral services and temporary housing to families of the victims of the crash. The country is in a 7-day national mourning period. The passenger plane crash that killed 179 in South Korea comes at a time of political upheaval in the country, testing the government's ability to administer a rapid disaster response, report The Guardian's Rafael Rashid and Justin McCurry. The incident has highlighted the potential risks that instability at the highest level of government poses to disaster response. There were encouraging signs in the immediate aftermath of the tragedy. South Korea's rival political parties launched separate initiatives in response to the disaster, apparently setting aside the animosity of recent weeks. The opposition Democratic Party leader, Lee Jae-myung, left for Muan, where he plans to stay indefinitely to support rescue efforts, the Hankyoreh newspaper said, although he will stay away from the crash site while recovery operations continue. The ruling People Power Party, meanwhile, formed a task force focused on investigating the crash and supporting victims' families. The party's acting leader, Kweon Song-dong, will visit Muan on Monday with task force members to review accident response measures and prevention strategies and meet bereaved families. Joe Biden said in a statement on Sunday that he was deeply saddened to learn of the South Korea plane crash that killed all but 2 of the 181 passengers on board. As close allies, the American people shared deep bonds of friendship with the South Korean people, and our thoughts and prayers are with those impacted by this tragedy, the statement said. The United States stands ready to provide any necessary assistance. Teams of lawyers from the rich and powerful trying to stop us publishing stories they don't want you to see. Lobby groups with opaque funding who are determined to undermine facts about the climate emergency and other established science. Authoritarian states with no regard for the freedom of the press, bad actors spreading disinformation online to undermine democracy. The father of a passenger who died in the Jeju Air crash in South Korea called the disaster unbelievable. Reuters reports John Jae-young keeps playing the video of the plane with his daughter and another 180 people on board slamming into a wall and bursting into flames at a South Korean airport. His daughter Mi-suk died on board. He still can't believe it. When I saw the accident video, the plane seemed out of control, said 71-year-old John. The pilots probably had no choice but to do it. My daughter, who was only in her mid-40s, ended up like this. This is unbelievable. Mi-suk was a warm-hearted child, he said. She brought some food and next year's calendar to his house on December 21st, which became his last brief moment with her. She is much nicer than my son, sometimes asking me to go out for a meal, John recalled, showing his last exchanges with his daughter on his mobile phone. The Korean Health Ministry is reportedly providing counseling services to the families of the passengers who died in the catastrophic plane crash in Muan. The government has also offered temporary housing and help with funeral services to those families. The National Transportation Safety Board is leading a team of U.S. investigators to help South Korea's aviation authority in its investigation of the Jeju Air crash in Muan, Reuters reports. Boeing, the maker of the plane, and the Federal Aviation Administration are participating, NTSB said on Sunday. A survivor of the deadly crash is awake and speaking with doctors, according to Yonhap News Agency. The 33-year-old flight attendant is one of 2 passengers who reportedly survived the Jeju Air crash that killed nearly all 181 people on board on Sunday. The director of the Seoul hospital where the survivor is being treated told reporters that the patient is able to communicate and is not displaying memory loss or other cognitive symptoms. The other survivor, also a flight attendant, is reportedly in stable condition at a separate hospital. Aviation experts question the theory that a bird strike caused the Jeju Air crash in South Korea that killed almost all of the 181 passengers on board, Reuters reports. Uncertainty surrounds the deadliest plane crash on South Korean soil, aviation experts said on Sunday, questioning how much impact a potential bird strike, cited by authorities, could have had in bringing down the Jeju Air flight. The apparent absence of landing gear, the timing of the twin-engine Boeing 737-800's belly landing at Muan International Airport, and the reports of a possible bird strike all raised questions that could not yet be answered. The single-aisle aircraft was seen in video broadcast on local media, skidding down the runway, with no landing gear deployed before hitting a wall in an explosion of flame and debris. At this point, there are a lot more questions than we have answers. Why was the plane going so fast? Why were the flaps not open? Why was the landing gear not down? Said Gregory Alegi, an aviation expert and former teacher at Italy's Air Force Academy. South Korean officials are investigating the crash of Jeju Air Flight 7C-2216, including the impact of a potential bird strike and the weather. 179 of 181 people on board died. Deputy Transport Minister Ju Jong-won said the runway's 2,800-meter length was not a contributing factor, and that walls at the ends were built to industry standards. A spokesperson for Jeju Air was not immediately available for comment. Jeju Air declined to comment on the cause during news conferences, saying an investigation is underway. Christian Beckert, a flight safety expert and Lufthansa pilot, said the video footage suggested that aside from the reversers, most of the plane's braking systems were not activated, creating a big problem and a fast landing. Beckert said a bird strike was unlikely to have damaged the landing gear while it was still up, and that if it had happened when it was down, it would have been hard to raise again. It's really very rare and very unusual not to lower the gear, because there are independent systems where we can lower the gear with an alternate system, he said. The probe should paint a clearer picture, he added. The Guardian view on Europe's Franco-German engine. In need of a reboot over the holidays, this column will explore next year's urgent issues. Today, why Europe's key alliance faces a troubling year amid political turmoil when Konrad Adenauer and Charles de Gaulle signed the 1963 Élysée Treaty of Friendship between France and Germany. It was a moving milestone on the road to post-war European integration. But Emmanuel Macron tends to avoid sentimental references to the Franco-German couple that made the modern EU possible. Ahead of 60th anniversary celebrations of the treaty last year, Mr. Macron's aides observed that, for the French president, joint European action is a geopolitical necessity, not a romantic matter. A touch dry and uninspirational, perhaps, but a more coldly analytical approach suits the times. The Franco-German alliance was the indispensable force behind the creation of both the EU single market and the euro. But as Europe struggles to define its place in a multipolar and more threatening world, the bedrock partnership at its core is not what it was.